Okay, time for a new video. Welcome back to my channel, or hello if you're new. This is yet another Eurovision related video here on my channel, and today I'm going to be talking about possible future venues of the Eurovision Song Contest. So for example, if France were to win in the near future, where in France could the contest possibly be staged? That sort of thing. As always, you're welcome to let me know your thoughts on anything I discuss in today's video by leaving a comment down below, and as always there are links in the description to my other social media pages. Check them out if you so wish. This is part one of a two-part mini-series, I suppose, on this channel. Today I will be going from Albania to Lithuania, and part two, which will surface on my channel sometime after this video you're watching now, will cover Luxembourg to the United Kingdom. So do bear that in mind. Also bear in mind I may be clicking backwards and forwards over the course of this video to make sure I get the information up in front of me that I need to read aloud. With that being said, let's get straight into this. Now, it is my understanding, and I could be absolutely wrong with this, but when a broadcaster declares to the European Broadcasting Union that they want to take part in the following year's competition, there are obviously some rules and stipulations that they have to agree upon. Firstly, I believe it is the case that you have to have broadcast that year's competition in order to take part in next year's competition. Also, and this is where I'm a little bit unsure, I believe there is something in a contract to do with Eurovision that states if you win, you will host the competition afterwards. Now, there are some countries in Europe that simply would find it very difficult indeed to stage Eurovision if they were to win. And first up is Albania, and this is a great example of a country that I think would find it very difficult to stage Eurovision. They simply do not have a large enough indoor arena for an event of this scale. Now, you can get around this. Option number one, enlarge a venue you already have. The issue with that? Money. Option 2, build a new venue. The issue there, money. Option number 3, slap a roof, temporary or permanent, over a football stadium that you currently have. The issue there, money. And of course, as soon as one contest is over, you have to start planning for the next one. You can't really dawdle too much. Albania would find it very difficult. In Tirana, the capital city, we have the Aslan Rusi Sports Palace, which opened in 1963 and has a capacity of around 4,000. That is simply not big enough. And of course, you have to take into consideration, once you have the stage constructed, once all of the rigging and lighting has been put in place, once you have the green room potentially part of the arena floor, the capacity is reduced. So rather than 4,000, you'd be looking at more like 1,000 for Eurovision in a venue like that. Plus it's got to meet loads of other criteria, and then the city itself has to meet loads of criteria, such as having a good enough airport, good enough transport links that could be enhanced further for Eurovision, and also enough hotel accommodation for delegations, fans and the press. Now, I believe Tirana would tick a lot of the right boxes, but this venue certainly isn't good enough. The venue that's used for FIC, which I believe is the Palace of Congresses, don't quote me on that, is even smaller. So what is Albania's option? Well, they have a pretty new national football stadium, which is known as the Air Albania Stadium for sponsorship purposes. It opened in 2019 and cost 85 million euros to construct. It has a capacity of just over 22,000. It has a big tower in one corner. I believe there's a shopping centre that's part of this stadium as well. It's all very fancy and it looks quite cool, and it played host to the Europa Conference League final in 2022. Now, slap a roof over the top of that, change the pitch to temporary seating, and you could have maybe somewhere in the region of 30,000 people there for Eurovision in Tirana in Albania. However, could you slap a roof over the top of that venue? Yes, I believe you could, but it's going to cost a lot of money, even if it's only temporary. Would the Albanian government want to pay for that? Would they have to get support from elsewhere? Possibly. I don't know. Anyway, that is probably Albania's only option. Slapping a roof over a football stadium that is currently in use. And of course, you might not be able to do it anyway, because there might be football games going on at that venue in May. So availability is another thing to think about when you are deciding a venue/city for Eurovision. Anyway, that was a ramble, wasn't it? Albania would struggle. What about Armenia, though? Well, Armenia do have a venue that could be used for the Eurovision Song Contest. It's a little bit on the small side. It is the Karen Demircian complex, which from the outside looks fairly space age. It opened in 2008. That was when it reopened after renovations. It originally opened in the early 1980s. It has a capacity of between 6,200 and 8,800. Taking into consideration what I said earlier on, that would be reduced. So you would be looking at maybe 5,000 for Eurovision, which is simply too small. However, surely there must be some sort of rule or stipulation to do with the EBU and Eurovision, where if a country like Albania or Malta or Cyprus were to win, they could stage it in a much smaller arena than usual. There must be something like that, because they know, the higher-ups at the EBU, that some countries would simply struggle to host the event. Some countries aren't the richest either. That has to be taken into consideration. Anyway, this venue has hosted Junior Eurovision twice before, and several notable musicians have performed there as well. Yes, they could renovate it again, temporarily for Eurovision. That's an option, but that is really the only option in Armenia. As for Austria, well, do I really need to cover this? Of course, there is a bidding process going on right now behind the scenes. It is almost certainly going to be Vienna, we all know this. The Wiener Stadthalle, which translates as the Viennese City Hall, has a capacity of 16,152 in Hall D. That is where Eurovision is most likely going to take place next May, and where Eurovision took place in 2015. The venue itself opened in 1957, but various other halls have opened over the following decades. It is pretty sizable. On television in 2015, it didn't look that big, but it is pretty sizable indeed. Tennis has been staged there. Loads of famous bands have performed there. And if I take a look at this, this year, Green Day are performing there this evening. Fantastic. I'd love to be there. They're my favourite band. Billie Eilish was there at the start of June, and Santana are going to be there at the end of this month. So this is the go-to venue for major musicians in Austria. And I believe Vienna are going to be building a brand new indoor arena within the next couple of years. We also have the Olympiahalle in Innsbruck, which opened in 1963, just in time for the 1964 Winter Olympics, and then it staged events at the 1976 Winter Olympics as well. It has a capacity of between 8 and 12,000, but whether Innsbruck meets all of the other criteria or not, I don't know. And then you have the Stadthalle in Graz, which is a little bit more of a modern build, opened in 2002 and has a capacity of somewhere in the region of 11,000. But let's be honest, it's going to be Vienna. I'd be very surprised if not. And I believe, if it is Vienna, they want to turn the football stadium, which is very large indeed, I'm thinking 50,000 plus, into a screening venue for next year's contest. So that would be quite special indeed. Anyway, Azerbaijan, well, they sort of built a venue specifically for Eurovision after they won in 2011. The Baku Crystal Hall, which is close to their national flag square, opened in 2012. It cost $350 million to construct, and it has a capacity of between 12 and 27,000, depending on the event that is staged there. Of course, it lights up around the sides, as we saw in the postcards for the 2012 competition. Various concerts have been staged there, Rihanna's performed there, taekwondo, boxing, karate, and the 2017 Islamic Solidarity Games took place there as well. So if Azerbaijan won again anytime soon, it would be that venue in Baku. Now, Belgium is fairly interesting. I think there would be a great deal of interest in Eurovision in Belgium if they were to win anytime soon, because they've only won once before. It was staged in Brussels in 1987. It could be in Brussels again. we have the ING Arena, which has a capacity of somewhere in the region of 15,000. That's perfectly suitable. It opened in 1989. Sabrina Carpenter has or will perform there this year, and the final of Eurosong took place there in 2023 when Gustav won. It has been known as the Palais 12 before as well. It could be Brussels, but I think it's more likely to be Antwerp, because they have one of the largest indoor arenas in Europe, and it has a big blue roof. Between 18 and 23,000 people can be packed into this venue, which opened in 1933, and it was renovated and expanded over the past, well, about a decade ago. Loads of famous people have performed there. Kylie Minogue and Lady Gaga are there later this year. Maybe you've got tickets, I don't know. Olivia Rodrigo and Justin Timberlake were there alongside others last year. It's big, it's old, it's grand, but it's certainly suitable for Eurovision. Another option is the 13,000 capacity Flanders Expo, which is a multi-purpose arena and convention centre located in Ghent, which opened in 1987. However, I think it would more likely be between Brussels, because that's the capital city, and Antwerp. Now, you do also have the Ethias Arena, which is now known as the Trixo Arena for sponsorship purposes. This is in Hasselt. Now, when you think of Belgium, that is not a place that you probably think of. However, Junior Eurovision was staged there 20 years ago this year. And if you've seen that contest on YouTube or things like that, you'll know it is a vast building indeed. Between 9,946 seated in the main hall, 18,600 in the main hall standing. So there you go. Definitely suitable for Eurovision, but everything else around the venue, I'm not sure it's ticking all of the right boxes. But that's the situation with Belgium. Antwerp, here we come potentially. We now move on to Croatia. Of course, we could have been in Croatia last month had Baby Lasagna won last year. Alas, it wasn't to be. It's between two venues in Croatia, if you ask me. We have the Spaladium Arena, which is in Split and opened in 2008. It's pretty close to the water. It cost 70 million euros to construct, and it's played host to a whole host of Balkan musicians over the years. Basketball has also been staged there. But it would more likely be the capital city, Zagreb. Now, from the outside, this looks like it's constructed from lots of white ribs. The Arena Zagreb, 23,000 the capacity for concerts. It opened in 2008 at a cost of 89 million euros. Ice hockey has been staged there. Handball, which is so big in most European countries, has been staged there as well, and loads of famous musicians have performed there too. And yes, more concerts will be scheduled in due course. So there you go. The Arena Zagreb, most likely where Eurovision would take place if Croatia were to win anytime soon. After them, it is Cyprus. Is it not? I haven't mentioned Australia, for good reason, because if Australia won, it would not be at the Sydney Opera House, it wouldn't take place in Perth, it wouldn't take place in the middle of the country in Alice Springs either. My understanding is if Australia were to win, they would team up with a European broadcaster of their choosing, and it would be a collaborative effort the following year. For example, we saw this with Ukraine teaming up with the UK in 2023. It would be something like that. Now, I don't know this for sure, but I believe Australia do have a contract in place, and they would work with the German broadcaster, and it would probably take place in somewhere like Hamburg or something. I don't know for sure. Australia don't look like they're going to win anytime soon. Just making sure I haven't forgotten anybody else. No, we're going to move swiftly on now to Cyprus, who very nearly won in 2018, of course. Now, Cyprus does have a venue that maybe, and it's a big maybe, could stage Eurovision. It's in Limassol, so not the capital city. It's the Spyros Kyprianou Athletics Centre, which opened in 2005 and has been renovated and expanded recently. Lots of indoor sporting events have taken place there, and it hosted Junior Eurovision in 2008. The capacity is around 6,000 to 8,000, slightly less for Eurovision, of course. But when you look at this year's contest in Basel, the capacity for that wasn't very high, so this would be arguably slightly more. So I think Cyprus would be fine. Whether Limassol, the surrounding area, ticking a lot of the right boxes, I don't really know, but there we go. Nicosia has the Eleftheria Indoor Hall, which opened in 1993 and has a capacity of 6,000. But really, I think the better venue is the one that I just mentioned in Limassol. And I have, in my own time, looked at football stadia in all of these countries, and I don't think anywhere in Cyprus could have a roof stuck over the top of it. But I could be wrong. I haven't intensely researched any of this. We move on to Czechia. Now, Czechia are fine. Prague, excellent. Eurovision there, sublime. The Charles Bridge, love it. There are a few venues in Prague that could do this, and there's one here which I have to remember the name of. Sort this alphabetically. Yes, here we are. It's the Interior Arena, formerly known as the Tipsport Arena. This opened in 1960, has a capacity of 10,000 for concerts. Yes. But it's not the most modern venue in Prague. We do have the O2 Arena, which would be renamed for sponsorship purposes, of course. This is the largest venue for concerts in the Czech Republic. It has a capacity of 20,000 for concerts, opened in 2004 and cost 630 million euros to construct. Loads of famous people have performed there. Billie Eilish was there on June the 1st, Dua Lipa was there in May, and Iron Maiden were also there a couple of years ago, so how about that? It's also played host to tennis and NHL matches. How about that? Albeit a number of years ago. And then Buffalo and New Jersey played there fairly recently, 2024-25. What do you know? Fantastic. Anyway, that's probably where Eurovision would be if Czechia were to win. But you do also have the Sportovní hala Fortuna, which is another venue which was also known as the Tipsport Arena, funnily enough, in Prague. But this is not the same venue as the one I just mentioned with the same name, I don't think. Anyway, capacity of somewhere in the region of 13,000, and it opened in 1962, and it's mainly used for ice hockey. You do also have the Ostravar Arena in Ostrava, which doesn't look the most attractive from the outside, but on the inside it looks pretty swanky, and it has a capacity of 10,000. So if they didn't want it to be in Prague, maybe Prague has too many tourists, hello Ostrava, that would be next in line. There are one or two other venues, but really it would be Prague or bust. After that we move on to Denmark. Denmark is really interesting. It's been staged in Copenhagen 3 times in the past, we all know this. 3 different venues. The Tivoli Gardens, very nice, lovely tourist destination. You've also got the Park and Football Stadium, not bad, but in 2001, if you were sat right at the back, you probably couldn't see or hear much at all, so not brilliant. And Denmark really did struggle that year to find somewhere suitable. And they did so again when they hosted in 2014, using a former shipyard, the B&W Halls, in which to play host to the Eurovision Song Contest. From the outside, pretty darn ugly. These days, from the outside, probably still looks pretty darn ugly. But on the inside, they did a really terrific job of making it look pretty impressive indeed, and that was a very impressive stage, and of course Austria won that year with Conchita Wurst. If Denmark were to win again, it would be Copenhagen again, I'm sure, in a 4th different venue in that city. Quite remarkable, because in recent years, they finally got around to building something suitable for major indoor events. The Royal Arena opened in 2017, and it has a capacity of around 17,000 for concerts. DMGP has been there, swimming has taken place there, as well as gaming events by the looks of it, and handball, which is such a popular sport on the continent, it's unbelievable. It looks pretty cool. That's where Eurovision would be in Denmark if they won again. We do have the Forum Copenhagen, which is much older. It opened in 1926, and it did play host to a special Eurovision celebration event many years ago, if I remember correctly. And we do have the Bank Boxen in Herning, which has also hosted DMGP before. It opened in 2010 and has a capacity of somewhere in the region of 15,000 for concerts. Pink, Robbie Williams, Adele, Red Hot Chili Peppers and Metallica have all performed there, among other notable musicians. So there you go. However, Copenhagen is the better option if you ask me, and it would be the Royal Arena. So there you go. Of course, you could use the Parken again, you could use the B&W Halls again, but why would you when you've got this pretty swanky, more modern venue sitting right there waiting to be used? After Denmark, Estonia, this is a really easy one. It would be the same venue that played host to Eurovision back in 2002. This venue opened in 2001. It's not called the Saku Suurhal anymore. It's the Unibet Arena. It has a capacity of 10,000 for concerts with standing room, and Eesti Laul has been staged there, and every famous musician you can think of who's wanted to perform in Estonia has performed in Estonia at this venue. Very nice indeed. Nowhere else in Estonia could really do it. Now, Finland, they want to win Eurovision fairly soon, and they've got some very suitable venues indeed. In Helsinki, the Heart Wall Arena, which I think has just been sitting there going to ruin for quite some time. It says here it's going to reopen, well, it should have reopened by now. Whether it has or not, I've no idea, but it did host Eurovision in 2007, it opened in 1997, and it has a capacity of somewhere in the region of 7,500 to 15,000 for concerts, and lots of famous people have performed there, and ice hockey has been staged there as well, including NHL matches. We also have the Helsinki Ice Hall, which is smaller, with a capacity of 8,200, that opened in the mid-60s. However, would it be Helsinki? Probably not. It would most likely be Tampere, at the Tampere Deck Arena or the Nokia Arena. How about that? Get your phones out. This is a modern place. UMK has been there. It has a capacity of 15,000 for concerts. It opened in 2021. Nightwish, Robbie Williams, Iron Maiden, and fairly recently Duran Duran have performed there. So there you go. And it would be fantastic because it would thrust that city into the spotlight. And would you believe it, NHL matches have also been staged there. We also have the Tampere Sports Centre, which has various halls but is slightly smaller. We also have somewhere else, it's Turku, I've just scrolled past it. Here we are, the Gatorade Centre. Fantastic. It's had various names, capacity of between 10 and 12,000 pretty much, depending on the event that's staged there, opened in 1990. I believe they are constructing a new venue in Helsinki and also a new venue in Vantaa, and they're both going to be pretty sizable and suitable for Eurovision in the future, so watch this space. We move on to France. Now, there's loads of places in France. We have the Bordeaux Métropole Arena, known as the Arkea Arena for sponsorship purposes. It has a capacity of between 8 and 11,000 and opened in 2018. Would it be in Bordeaux? I don't think so. It could be in Grenoble at the Palais des Sports. However, I don't think so. That place opened in 1967, has room for 12,000 people, depending on the event. We also have the Halle Tony Garnier, which is pretty interesting if you look at the interior. It's sort of stacked like this, very Lego-like, I would say. It opened in 1988, has room for 17,000 people. However, Lyon has a pretty new venue, which I'll mention if I can find it. Here we go. France, Lyon. Yes, the LDLC Arena opened in 2023. 16,000 capacity for concerts. Basketball is staged there as well. Cost over 140 million euros to construct. And, I mean, it's very modern, pretty state-of-the-art. It would be between Lyon and Paris, if you ask me. Talking of Paris, we have the Accor Hotels Arena, which does look fairly impressive from the outside. It's hosted ice hockey, basketball, handball, boxing, tennis, and has room for 20,000 people for concerts. It opened in 1984 and has been renovated. However, Paris also has the huge, wherever it is, heavens above, this is irritating. Come on, man. Now, it's going to be up here, isn't it? Because it's even larger. Here we are. the Paris La Défense Arena, which is in the area of Nanterre, a western suburb of the capital city. It opened in 2017. It's huge, 45,000 for concerts. It's essentially where France's version of Melfest would take place, if you see what I mean. Absolutely suitable for Eurovision, and obviously the capacity would be slightly less if Eurovision was staged there. Bad Bunny is performing there next year. Kendrick Lamar's going to be there next month. And Dua Lipa was there last month, and Taylor Swift has been there. In fact, the largest attendance at that venue, I think, was Taylor Swift, in terms of, you know, people actually going to watch something. It also hosted events at the 2024 Summer Olympics and Paralympics, so it's absolutely fantastic. Where else could it be in France? Bear with me. It could be in Strasbourg. It could be in a few other places as well. But really, it's between Paris and Lyon. Of course, Junior Eurovision was in Nice. But I think there are larger venues for the adult competition. It was in Nice, wasn't it? That's going to irritate me now. That's really going to irritate me. It was in Nice at the Palais Nicaea, was it not? This is really damn irritating that I can't remember. Yes, it was. Thank you very much. We move swiftly on. So, bear with me as we continue alphabetically by moving on to Georgia next. Now, Georgia do have two venues. However, I get them very confused. We have the Tbilisi Sports Palace, which opened in 1961 and was renovated in 2007, has capacity for 11,000 people. And it says here Junior Eurovision was there. No, it wasn't. It was scheduled to host Junior Eurovision in 2017, but they moved to the next place I'll mention, which is the Olympic Palace, which opened in 2015 and was expanded a few years ago and has capacity for 10,000 in the Tbilisi Arena part of it, which is used for basketball. And Junior Eurovision was there a few years ago and is going to be there again this year, but the capacity is significantly less, or fewer, however you want to say it. Very bizarre. Get those two places a little bit confused. There's also the Black Sea Arena in Shekvetili, which does look pretty cool from the outside, 10,322. The Black Eyed Peas, Elton John and The Killers have all performed there, so clearly it's got something about it. But in all honesty, Tbilisi is the best place for Eurovision, should Georgia ever win. We then move on to Germany. Apart from the UK, there is no country in Europe better ready to stage something like Eurovision. There are so many venues, it's unbelievable. We have the Mercedes-Benz Arena, which is now known as the Uber Arena, in Berlin. 17,000 for concerts, opened in 2008, cost a lot of money to construct. The MTV European Music Awards have been staged there. Beyoncé's been there. Harry Styles has been there. Nicki Minaj has been there. And Sabrina Carpenter was there this March. I believe Berlin are building another venue as well fairly soon, but don't quote me on that. Cologne. This is where I think Eurovision would be if Germany won again. It's got a sort of Wembley-style arch. It's the Lanxess Arena. It opened in 1998. It has a capacity of 20,000 for concerts. It's pretty fancy. Ice hockey has been there. Gaming has been there. And a whole bunch of other events as well. And I think Eurovision in Cologne would be quite nice. In fact, this pencil is from Cologne. You can't really see it, but I promise you it says Köln on there. We also have a venue in Dortmund which could be used, the Westfalenhalle, which is also a conference venue and exhibition centre. Opened in the early 50s, has a capacity of somewhere in the region of 16,000. Dusseldorf could be used again. They've got the PSD Bank Dome, which opened in 2006, 15,000 there or thereabouts. And of course the football stadium they could use again if they really wanted to. You've got the Festhalle in Frankfurt, which is architecturally a very interesting building. It opened in 1909 apparently, 13,500 there. Don't think Eurovision would be there at all. You've got the Barclays Arena in Hamburg, formerly known as the O2, 16,000, opened in 2002, cost 83 million euros to construct, and ice hockey has been staged there as well. Okay, so there might be a little bit of a pause in the video that you're watching. For some reason, I stopped recording. But I believe that I managed to get up to the ZAG Arena, which is located in Hanover in Germany. It has a capacity of 14,000. It opened in 2000. That's another possible option for Eurovision should Germany win anytime soon. We also have a couple of other venues of note, which I won't really go through. There's one in Leipzig, which would surely be in contention, one in Mannheim. We have the Olympiahalle in Munich, which is quite space age from the outside. It opened in 1972, played host to events at the 1972 Summer Olympics, and loads of famous musicians have performed there over the years. It's my understanding that they are going to construct a new indoor arena in Munich fairly soon. I should also point out I'm probably forgetting loads of other places, but I don't want this video to be even longer than it's already going to be. And I think that's it for Germany. We have another venue in Oberhausen, but I don't think it would be there. We have the Hans-Martin Schleyer Halle in Stuttgart, which opened in the early 1980s and has a capacity of just under 15,000. Loads of people have performed there, including Elton John, because that man truly does get everywhere. Long story short, Germany would have no trouble at all finding a venue suitable for Eurovision. We move on to Greece, and the best option is the OAKA Basketball Arena, which has green seats and played host to Eurovision in Athens in 2006. It opened in time for the 2004 Summer Olympics over 2 decades ago, and it has been renovated fairly recently and has a capacity of between 17 and 18,000 depending on the events that are staged there. Has Elton John performed there too? His name is not mentioned, but Beyonce, Björk, Enrique Iglesias, Pearl Jam, Cigarettes After Sex, they're a great group. They've all performed there. After that, we do have Thessaloniki in Greece as well. They could maybe do it. The PAOK Sports Arena, that has a capacity of 10,000 for concerts and opened in 2000. It's also been renovated in the recent past. After Greece, we move on to Iceland. I think Iceland would be all right hosting Eurovision. I think they'd be very enthusiastic about it. 2 venues in the capital city, Reykjavik. We have the Laugardalshöll, which opened in 1965. It's been renovated and expanded a couple of times. 10,000 the capacity there if you have standing room as well, and I think Sungverkeppnin has taken place there in the past. You've also got the Eglishöll, which is a bit more of a modern build, opened in 2002, expanded numerous times. Foo Fighters and Queens of the Stone Age and Metallica have performed there, and it can hold 18,000 people apparently, so how about that? However, that would be significantly less for Eurovision, of course. It's also got 3 football pitches, an ice rink, a gym, a shooting range, tennis courts and a cinema. So if you want to do other things around that venue, should Eurovision ever be staged there, you'd probably be all right. Otherwise, I think Iceland would probably have to construct somewhere new. I don't know. As for Ireland, you would be looking at the 3 Arena. Now, the 3 Arena, formerly the O2, and before that, the Point Theatre, which hosted Eurovision a bunch of times in the 90s. It's got a very interesting structure. It's sort of one tier that curves around. So how that would look on television for Eurovision, I don't really know these days. 13,000 the capacity with standing. It was built after the Point closed, so it opened in December of 2008, cost 80 million euros to do so. Loads of famous people have performed there, and it's right next to the water. There isn't really anywhere else in Ireland that could stage Eurovision besides Dublin, in all honesty. As for Italy, well, there's a whole bunch of places. The Unipol Arena in Bologna, pretty sizable, 20,000 for concerts, opened in 1993. You've also got the Palasport di Genova, which is sort of like a big green discus, and it opened in 1962. And lots of famous people have performed there, including Frank Sinatra. We've also got the Mediolanum Forum in Milan. Now, I believe Milan are building somewhere new because they're staging the Winter Olympics in the near future. So if Eurovision was in Italy again fairly soon, I do think Milan would probably come out on top. This place, though, opened in 1990. It's been renovated twice. And Eurovision's never been in Milan, so maybe it would be their time. We also have the Adriatic Arena in Pesaro, which is known as the Vitri Frigo Arena these days, but Pesaro is not one of the first places people think of when they think of Italy, with all due respect, so I'm not sure they'd be in contention, but it does have a pretty sizable capacity, 13,000 for concerts. Rome doesn't really have anywhere truly suitable. The Pala Lottomatica, opened in 1960, has room for 11,000 people, something like that. Various indoor sporting events have taken place there. And of course, you have the venue that was used for Eurovision in 2022, I nearly said this year, the Pala Alpitor, the Pala Sport Olimpico, or Inalpi Arena, as it's now known. It opened for the Winter Olympics in 2000 and whatever year it was, 2006, cost 87 million euros to construct, and ice hockey, basketball, volleyball, concerts have all taken place there, between 13 and 16,000 pretty much, depending on whatever event is staged there. Lots of people can be crammed in. Absolutely fantastic. Harry Styles, Metallica and Lana Del Rey, alongside Ariana Grande and Bob Dylan, have all performed there. So Italy wouldn't really have too much trouble at all finding somewhere suitable. Now, I will mention Israel briefly, but because they're classified as Asia, I'm going to have to do this. Here we go. That's not really what I wanted at all. Oh, now. Let's do this, shall we? Here we go. Got there in the end. So we have the Jerusalem Arena, which does look pretty cool from the outside. It has a capacity of around 11,000. It opened in 2014. It could be there. You've got the Menorah Mivtachim Arena in Tel Aviv, which is where Eurovision probably should have been in 2019, has a capacity of 8,000 for concerts, opened in 1963, renovated and expanded numerous times. You've got one or two other locations, but really it would be Jerusalem or Tel Aviv, or you would slap a roof over a football stadium. But one thing's for sure, if Israel were to win again anytime soon, it probably wouldn't be in that country anyway because of political tension. After Israel, we move on to Latvia. It would be Riga. It would be the Riga Arena, which opened in 2006 and has a capacity of around 14,500 for concerts. It's not far from the venue that hosted in Riga in 2003, the Skonto Hall, but that is more on the small side, and I think the side of it is covered in graffiti, or at least it was the last time I looked at it, which is a bit disappointing. Finally, Lithuania. The Žalgiris Arena is very impressive. I think it's the largest arena in the Baltics, but don't quote me on that. Surely it is. It opened in 2011. 20,500 people can be packed into there. Basketball has taken place there. A whole host of famous musicians have performed there. I don't know about the rest of Kaunas, but that venue is absolutely ready to go. Otherwise, it would be the capital city, Vilnius, with the Siemens Arena, or the Twins Bed Arena, as it's now known. That has room for about 13,500 people for concerts, and it opened in 2004, and Ed Sheeran, Linkin Park, and Slipknot have all performed there, alongside many other acts. That concludes part one of this long, rambling two-part series. The second part will surface on my channel, hopefully within the next couple of days, and I really need to check out this whole cutting me off when I'm recording thing, because actually that's happened a few times recently, and I've had to refilm one or two things. A bit annoying. Anyway, until next time, take care of yourselves, stay safe, and bye for now.